Thanks so much for your time.
Kennedy stepped out of the race, right? That was the moment at which the idea of unity began to catalyze. And the question is, all right, well, how many of us are there? So gathering on the Capitol Mall is going to allow us to show just how many of us there are and how serious we are about restoring the Republic and returning to the foundational principles.
How many FBI agents think are going to show up?
Well, you should be able to recognize them by the swastikas that they're carrying, the fact that they're inciting violence, or...
You think that's going to happen?
Well, let's put it this way. The first of the pillars of the Rescue the Republic event is war is always the last resort. And I would broaden that a little bit just so that it's very clear to people who are listening to this. And I realize you're an MMA guy, so I got to be careful here. Non-consensual violence is always the last resort. If you want to gather with somebody else and fight with them under some agreement, that's
Yeah,
fine.
I don't. Violence is very different than sport.
Yeah.
Sport, violent, combat sports, it's just violence. It's just a part of it. It's agreed. There's some of the nicest guys you ever want to meet.
Oh, yeah. Believe me, I want to leave plenty of room for that. I just want to say, if I say violence is the last resort, I don't want anybody to be confused about what that means. But the point is, look, violence is the last resort, and this gathering is the attempt to avoid that happening. The people who are eroding our rights are making it inevitable. We want to head them off at the pass, and we want to proclaim what it is that we stand for. And the first thing that we stand for is that war is always the last resort. This is not a pacifist movement, right? In fact, I've been... all right. Do you remember learning in school that this country, this bastion of freedom, was forged by patriots who fought off tyrants, who beat the odds, and created this country?
Right.
Do you remember learning that Thomas Jefferson said that the Tree of Liberty must periodically be refreshed with the blood of patriots and tyrants?
Mm-hmm.
So this idea that tyranny is a profound problem is written in our DNA as a nation. And those who are cynically dismantling the nation are putting us in that jeopardy. And what I'm afraid that people will do is they will, with some justification, say to themselves, you know what, I'm not sure how much my vote counts. I'm not sure what we can do. I'm expecting them to cheat. And then they're going to cross their fingers, and we're going to end up with a result that people are going to have a hard time accepting. This is the alternative. If you don't know if your vote counts, you know what does count? If you show up in a large group that makes it very clear that there are lots of us who are intent on keeping our rights. So, the first of our... Oh, go ahead. First of our pillars, war is always the last resort. Second is that we have to recodify informed consent. So, the medical freedom movement is part and parcel of what we are. And I know that that's an issue that is profoundly important. I'm concerned that the medical freedom movement was taking shape, and then events happened that caused it to get swamped. The fact that the Trump campaign was uninterested in talking about the problems of Project Warp Speed dropped that issue to a low priority, and we are going to reprioritize it. The third of our pillars is that we have to repel censorship, propaganda, and information control. We have a right to have a public square, to have a discussion. You have a right to be incorrect. Hopefully you're honorable about it and you discover you're incorrect and you fix your error, but we have to be able to talk freely. There's nobody who knows what the facts are so that they can tell us, which things we're allowed to talk about anymore than there's somebody in a position
Thank you for joining us, guys. We'll be taking questions now.
This is sacrosanct. And so we have to have an end to censorship. The other is that we have to return to a modality of truth seeking. A system of person institutes or arms of the government that believe they have the right
Apologies if you couldn't ask.
to a very dark place. And so we have to replace that paternalistic anti-truth bent with a return to open truth seeking. So that's the fourth one. Fifth one is an end to lawfare. We've seen
Anfield awaits what should be a fascinating confrontation involving two high-level sides. It doesn't. Anfield, one of the most storied venues anywhere in the football world. I'm Derek Ray in the commentary position, and I'm joined for expert analysis by my partner Stuart Robson. And looking forward to bringing you action from the Premier League coming right up. It is Liverpool up against Tottenham Hotspur.
Well, thanks, Derek, as always. The scene is set, two good teams, a great playing surface, and a vibrant atmosphere.
Is it going to be? And that, a piece of goalkeeping you're going to see again and again and again. Trying to pick out a teammate. And up the post that time.
This is a place where various states all coming up with their own mechanisms for voting.
Simikas.
Actually, we have to have a national conversation about how to hold elections that are transparent and verifiable. That seems like a minimum requirement.
Well, a good tackle.
I think I'm on the 6. That was
into the advanced position.
The 7th pillar is financial freedom.
Kulusevski
So
took a really smart piece of defending to stop them.
The danger of a central bank digital currency.
Well, not great from the keeper.
The capacity to be autonomous.
Son.
Tyranny inflicted on
Madison.
Through
That is a very fine challenge in difficult circumstances.
Currency.
Son.
There are 2 more, and these are out of order on the screen.
Opportunity to deliver the cross.
Border policy.
Son.
Rational.
Well, it's all about passing as they tried to hit the front.
Borders don't make any sense.
A good and fair challenge.
Right level is we decide how
Darwin Nunez.
who actually want to be Americans and yet the rate of these
Bosley.
question can absorb them.
And under pressure, that was a fine claim.
This great experiment.
Ciro Immobile.
The last one just is
Spurs get the advantage from the referee. And the timing was perfect. Ball 1. He has very much been the talk of the town going into this match, taking on his old club, and that can bring with it a few complications.
Well, for some reason, playing against your old club can be difficult. You just feel that bit of added pressure. I hope it doesn't affect him today.
And a goal! That will do it! They've been pushing for it, and now they've been rewarded.
So, those are the 8 pillars. Everything people think.
Well, here it is again. It's a well-delivered ball into the box, and then what a great finish as well. Good connection with the ball, leaving the keeper with little chance. It's a great goal.
Unity movement built around these things is exactly where they want to be in an era where there's
And so the action continues. Will there be a response from Tottenham now? There needs to be.
Gather with us.
Ciro Immobile. Madison with it. And spot on with that challenge.
If a million people show up, that will make it pretty unenviable.
That's a good-looking ball.
I think it's important to point out that you had this idea.
And he takes it on!
And that it was actually removed from Twitter.
In 2020.
Yeah.
Oh, he's left his marker for dead.
I called the
Son.
which I actually announced on your
Textbook
show.
defending inside the box.
It's called the Dark Horse Duo.
Well, the electronic board showing 1 additional
And I
minute.
still think
No more time left. First half is over here at Anfield. I think most fans would be pretty happy with this man's display so far.
by virtue of the balance of the plan.
Well, the ball is moving again. Spurs trailing going into the second half. Can they summon the right response?
Catch fire.
But what's important is that it was removed.
Plenty of support here. Went in strongly to win the ball.
That was the rationalization. That's it.
Nice weight on the pass. Mo Salah. Well, quite simply, the cross was too close to the keeper.
It was code for bots. Yeah, bots that they argued that we had used. We did an internal
Encouraging move from Liverpool, but quick thinking defensively. Now the quick counter-attack could be on.
Well, here's the thing you can do.
Well, it looked highly promising, but it came to nothing in the end.
Onto this program. So you have these people that are tweeting
McAllister.
and then you send the bots to that page to agree with them. They say, oh my God, we found bots.
Right.
Shut it down.
Well, excitement guaranteed here on EA TV Live, the Champions League semi-final second leg. It's Liverpool.
Oh, Derek, what a chance this is.
In position, but pressure to cope with.
It's just organized.
Yeah, it's organized. So,
Immobile.
I don't know. I do think unity is the right message.
Madison.
This is
They could
exactly
level it. And a decent save. Full credit.
do together because many people feel the jeopardy. I sincerely hope that what President Trump discovered when he brought Bobby Kennedy on board continues to grow in his mind, because I think actually he has the potential to lead a massive movement to restore the republic and make it function, and that would be, I think it would be wonderful for him. I think he would go down in history as not the polarizing figure that people seem intent on turning him into, but he would go down in history as a galvanizer.
Spurs to make a personnel switch now.
I know that would be hard. Many people have thought ill of him to swallow.
And there's the delivery.
Yeah. What? Okay.
Not the result from the set piece they were looking for.
Joining,
It's the turn of Spurs now.
Bobby Kennedy
And Tulsa.
and Tulsi, who is in fact coming to our event. Tulsi's
Plenty
coming.
of support here. This could square the game.
Oh, no, it's going to be there.
And the goalkeeper has outdone himself with that save.
That's how you
Can someone get on the end of this? On the corner, too close to the goalkeeper that time. Well, make sure you join us for more Premier League action coming your way. It's Tottenham Hotspur taking on Leicester City.
Oh, Derek, there's a chance here.
Well, I think you could call that an escape. It looked a certain goal. Darwin Nunez. Oh, tremendous vision. And it's opening up. Just what the Liverpool fans wanted to see as they extend the lead to 2 goals.
Well, let's have another look. It's a wonderful bit of interplay to start the move off. And his movement's so clever. Once he gets onto it, there's only one thought in his head. Smash it as hard as possible. What a good goal.
And the ball is moving again. 2-0 is how it stands.
It would make it very difficult to sell the story that the enthusiasm.
Pedro Porro.
Harris
And now with
has yet to
Kulusevski.
articulate anything.
Decent looking pass.
Right answer. Need to make it
Well,
clear.
there was impending danger, but good defending.
Doesn't count your physical presence on the ball.
And just 5 minutes remaining.
Sure, Americans have together. Cross.
And he's in an offside position. And a change for Spurs at this juncture.
Is the antidote to the cheating that we all fear.
Liverpool have it once again.
Everyone's time. Appreciate you very much.
Right back at you.
Thank you. Thanks for being you.
All right. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Well, the referee has instructed the fourth official to put 2 minutes on the board. A glorious chance. And the keeper more than equal to it. And the referee blows for full time. This goes down as a Liverpool victory.
Well, Derek.
Time for just a few questions.
Well, I didn't have a real problem with that. Small problem. Let's put it this way. I think it's nonsense, but I understand something. I understand the answer there. So let me just say, I saw that segment, and I immediately reached out to him. I said, Tucker, you've got it wrong. Evidence, Darwinian evolution or adaptation is overwhelming, and I would love to sit down with you and why that is.
No further questions, thanks.
But I do think it's important in saying something about why that perspective, where that perspective is coming from, and why it's incorrect. It is important to say, I really appreciate Tucker, and his openness to hearing the counter argument says a lot about him. He was not the slightest bit defensive, and in fact was eager to hear about Darwinism. And
Well, he's absolutely willing to change his mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, about everything.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is great.
It is. It's
It's very important that he's got such a big voice because of that.
I agree, and I must just say, it's funny. I went on his show. He was the first person to reach out when things melted down in 2017 at Evergreen, and I thought him a villain at the time. But because nobody else had reached out from any mainstream platform, I felt like I had no choice. But
Yeah, I remember you took a lot of heat for that.
and a lot of heat. But I also, it was a wake up call because I was expecting him to treat me badly. I was expecting him to treat me as a liberal who got what he deserved. And instead, he was absolutely compassionate. And he didn't, there was no part of him that was taking a victory lap over some liberal who was faced with an angry mob. So anyway,
He's oddly misinterpreted.
yes.
Like, the way people pretend he is versus how he actually is. I mean, he doesn't do himself any favors, like when he had that guy on that said he blew Obama. Like, what are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? He's just wild. But I mean, he's willing to have on anybody, I guess. But who he is as a person, he's a lovely guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Very nice guy.
And, he's just like obsessively in love with nature,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah, which is really interesting about him. Passionate fly fisherman.
Oh, yeah, passionate outdoorsman.
Mhm.
And anyway, I have a lot of affection for the guy.
Yeah, I do too. And it is interesting. I mean, so there's a certain group of people that are just on Team Blue. You say anything positive about Tucker, and you're some sort of a terrible villain, and he represents white supremacy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it was a weird, a strange discovery.
But it's being connected to Fox News. You get attached to Fox News. You get attached, especially him, the most popular voice on Fox News.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time, he's always being demonized as a white supremacist or something. And I got into the habit every time somebody said, Tucker's finally revealed himself, I would click through and see what the evidence was.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, the guy just said he wasn't for open borders, right? It's just empty.
Yeah, well, it's just the rational voice is so discouraged in today's world. The rational, objective voice, where you look at both sides. You look at, I see why someone would say this. I see what you're saying. I see this. Everybody immediately gets polarized. Everybody immediately connects to their ideology and changes the words of someone to be the least charitable version of what it is, and the most heinous interpretation of who that human being is. And if you support them, you support this, and if you platform them, you platform this. And it's just nonsense. It's nonsense peddled by morons. It's a moronic way to look at the world. It really is.
Yeah, it's almost beyond that because, I mean, look, I remember thinking Bobby Kennedy was, yeah,
100%. I said it to him when he came on the podcast. I said, I have to be honest, that my version of you was connected entirely to you being an anti-vaxxer, conspiracy theorist, kook, the dark cloud of the Kennedy family, this one guy who's just nuts, unfortunately. Too bad. Then I read The Real Anthony Fauci, and I was like, hang on.
yeah. Oh,
But then I talked to some brilliant people that I know that recommended certain things and told me to read some other things that he had written. I'm like, oh, this is
Okay, welcome.
They meet me. They think I'm some right-wing, conspiracy theorist, asshole, mean person. I'm like, okay, you get there. You're getting there because someone led you. You're not getting there. Objective analysis of the person.
Well, that's what we have time for today.
And with him, he's connected to that business of first environment, right? So he's an environmental attorney and cleaned up the East River, and did a lot of great work.
Yeah, he is our champion, and we were led to believe that he was
A bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's so well measured when even dealing with these attacks. The way he handles things is so admirable.
It is admirable.
It really is.
Yeah, and
it's good for all of us.
Yeah. Well, the discovery. I want everybody to have the experience of having thought ill of somebody like Tucker or like Bobby Kennedy, and then to discover in person that the rap is just wrong.
Right, and you're being led. You're being led by what's essentially propaganda, and it's to polarize us. It's to keep us separated, and to keep us thinking that you don't have anything in common with people on the right. They're demons. You don't have anything in common with people on the left. They're loons. Like, you and I are both very socially liberal.
Yeah.
You know, and the idea that you'd be sitting here saying Trump's got to win.
I know. Who would have thought, right?
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
It's crazy, but the world's crazy. And when the world's crazy, you have to have crazy solutions.
I've started when people don't know who I am, and they ask.
Just I'm a biologist.
Keep moving. Well, the problem is, eventually they're going to run into it. So I've started saying, look, I'm happy to tell you what I do, but I should warn you, I'm a terrible person who's come to believe unforgivable things. It kind of works.
That special and unbeatable feeling of match days in the air, and the knowledge that this has all the makings of a vibrant and compelling encounter. Anticipation levels are sky high, and every expectation this game will live up to its billing.
There's a lot of concern, especially.
Don't go anywhere. All the action coming up next.
Potentially a night of excitement ahead at one of the most famous stadia in world football. We're at Anfield here in Liverpool. I'm Derek Ray, and my commentary partner here on the gantry is the former Arsenal and West Ham player Stuart Robson. And we're ready to bring you the second leg of this UEFA Champions League semi-final. It is Liverpool facing Borussia Dortmund.
Well, Derek, how good were Liverpool in that first leg? They were absolutely outstanding. Their attacking play was a joy to watch, but they need to stay focused again today.
This is the lineup for Dortmund. Thomas Partey starts with Emre Can in central midfield. Is it going to be? There it is! And just the ideal start.
Well, here we can see it again. Look at the way he glides past the defender to create space for himself. And then through on goal, he just goes for power and smashes it past the keeper. There's no stopping that. What a great finish.
1-0 then. Effort from long distance. Not really the high percentage option to try your luck from there.
Well, his teammates aren't particularly happy. He was never going to score from there.
Set with modification, and it explains essentially all of biology. So, by that rubric, it was just...
And goes for goal! Well, the keeper kept it out with a minimum of fuss, but it wasn't a great effort.
Presented was an out.
Emre Can. Minge. Good-looking sequence. He must finish! That was going in!
Creatures being adapted to their environments by the process of selection for some things, outdo other things, and heredity allows the characteristics that make some things outdo other things.
Luis Diaz. Clean challenge.
When DNA is
Rice.
events, it's Darwin outlines its hypothesis. Mendel at the same time is playing games.
Emre Can now.
And Mendel
And Liverpool regaining possession here.
articulate inheritance. He discovers that if he is careful about how he reads the keys,
Jota.
that he can actually identify the reads.
Is this the moment? And a fine stop to turn the ball away.
Ice cream is like things that stayed flow through these readings, right?
Federico Chiesa.
Didn't know about it. Was working on the same.
Diaz.
Oh, what a fucking
And top
cross.
notch as well as brave
What a
goalkeeping.
fucking
He comes off his
cross.
line at just the right time.
Oh.
He read that brilliantly.
Their characteristics.
Emre Can.
And he knew that there had
The
to
ball
be a
with
way
Marco
for
Reus.
hereditary
Good
information
tackle taken away.
inside of
Real chance. And he scored not once but twice. They simply cannot stop him. And no wonder he's enjoying himself.
Well, here we can see it again, and he does so well to skip beyond the defender. It just buys him that bit of time to get his shot away. That's a really nice goal.
How as an escape partner, this provides police information.
Well, that's just what he wanted. He has to be happy with this performance. They've been good today.
So back underway, with the scoreline standing at 2-0. Rice. Malen with it. Nico Schlotterbeck. It is going to be a Dortmund free kick.
And be selected by that adaptation. Right? That's the break. Absolutely. We know it. And it's slow. As if it was.
Distributing it well. And cleared away.
Error. It's not garbage.
Well, the stoppage time situation. 1 minute here. Alexander Arnold. And quick thinking defensively.
Random mutation.
And that brings to an end the first half here at Anfield.
Every so often, there's a good selection that tends to accumulate good ones. You have creatures and their special characteristics are all the results of all the collective good adaptations of all of bad adaptations. All of the good mutations collected, all of the bad mutations lost.
So back underway, and an intriguing second half in prospect.
Explain amazing characteristics of creatures. I can explain some. I can explain, for example, how you get a pig.
Showing a real will to win the ball.
So plants is green, things can't use green light.
And crossed in there. And he's clear as lines. And a friendly reminder that we have more action from the Premier League coming up. It's Liverpool facing Aston Villa. A lot of space afforded Borussia Dortmund. Targets available, cross comes in. Good piece of defending. Couldn't quite find his teammate. Throw in here for Borussia Dortmund. Karim Adeyemi. Diogo Jota. Able to skip past his man. In position. And there is the goal to make it a hat-trick. Excellence in finishing. There for all to see.
I don't think it does that. In fact, I've thought since I was...
Well, here's the replay. Watch how he goes past his man with such ease, and it's just a change of pace. And then what a finish. That's been hit with such power and pace. The keeper has no time to react. It's a brilliant strike.
3 goals without reply.
Interacting. And I think we just missed it. So,
Luis Diaz. Liverpool have given it away. Wilson. And did just enough defensively.
Switches that have exactly 2 states.
Diogo Jota.
Sit down with
Decent looking pass.
an AI or a sophisticated computer game.
And he's gone for
I
pass.
say, yep, that thing is programmed in binary to do these amazing things that you're seeing. Right? There's a technical truth there. That's not, you couldn't program a game like that in binary. Nobody did. That's not how it happened. There's a layer that's missing. There's a layer called compilers and computer languages that allows a human being, through a very regimented process, to specify things such that the binary layer can do its job. Right? The computer is binary, but there's a whole layer between binary and Halo 3 or whatever kids are playing.
So close to finding the net. And Dortmund will go to the bench. Marcel Sabitzer. Well, the defenders know they need to get tighter. Can't really allow runs like that. Making sure nothing came of it.
Stephen Meyer is obviously a very intelligent.
15 minutes left for play. But he's certainly not alone.
Yep. Here's the other thing I don't understand. I had the good fortune to spend some time with great
Oh,
friends.
surely! A goal here! Giving his team precisely what they were looking for. Now he deserves to celebrate it.
He's passionate. In fact, where I look
Well, it's great awareness of space in the box, and then he shows a lot of composure with the finish. That's a clever goal.
Yeah, it's nice passion.
A lopsided contest, 4-0.
Here's what I would say. He will not be surprised to hear me say, because I've seen him. He's looking for flaws.
Well, putting it wide from there. A pity, really.
Revealed.
Substitution then. Let's see how it affects the match.
I think there are flaws with Darwinism. I think they reveal the fact that we've missed a bunch of Darwinism. Right?
5 minutes to
This
go.
is no obstacle to us being
Jota.
friends and sharing an appreciation.
Well, that's really sound goalkeeping, not letting the opposition have any scraps.
Betting on different outcomes. Finding those errors. What's there? Right? Should I be troubled by the fact that he believes in a divine creator? Not really anymore.
Trying to deliver it accurately. Oh, that's not a good clearance. Well, there was impending danger, but good defending.
Process that's yet to be discovered. There's something else.
Yeah.
And we are going to have 2 additional minutes. Teammates
I
available.
think there's another way that information is stored in DNA.
Bensebaini delivered into the box.
It allows.
And now it is all over. Liverpool have ascended to the high altar of the Champions League final.
Well, those celebrations will be going on for a long time now because they know just how good they've been over the 2 legs. They'll certainly fancy their chances in the final if they play like that.
Charges process of adaptation. And so the point about Stephen Meyer is he makes a number of different arguments about problems he spots with Darwinism. I don't think some of them really are problems.
Time for just a few questions.
It strikes me as real. I call it the waiting time. Basically, it's like we can do the math on how much adaptation we see, and there isn't enough time for you to get the adaptations that you see, given how much availability of time there was for those things to occur. So the point is that process that you're claiming made these creatures couldn't have done it in the amount of time you're claiming they would create. And my point is that is
Thanks very much.
I think likely true, because there's this other process. Like if you had to write Halo 3, I don't even know if there is a Halo 3. But
I don't know. How many halos are?
okay,
Thumbs up.
if you had to write Halo 3 in binary, how long would it take you? It would take you a zillion years because,
Yeah.
It's binary. If you had to write it in, I don't know, C++, it might be doable on human timescales. So it's that kind of an error. So I think you've got Darwinists claiming that the story is more complete than it is. My bet is the thing that's missing is every bit as Darwinian as the part of the story that we already know. So I think, to the extent that there's an error, the error is on biologists who thought too narrowly. It's not on Darwin, right? This is not a threat to what Darwin gave us. It's just a belief that that Darwin was righter than we have yet recognized. And in the end, I think that that's what people like Stephen Meyer will discover. And I would also point out, from the perspective, so if a guy like Tucker is listening to this and he's thinking, the story in which we've got a creator makes more sense to me than the story in which some Darwinian process produces all of this biological diversity, I would argue that ultimately you still don't escape Darwinism, right? Like imagine that this universe was created by somebody who had a plan. My claim would be they used Darwinian evolution to make all the creatures. In fact, I would argue if this universe is one that has a creator, that it is an evolution simulator. That's the most useful thing it does, is it figures out how creatures could be by using this process of selection, right?
And they continue to get better.
Right. Yeah, somebody was interested. I don't think there was a creator, but if there was a creator, I believe not only did they use selection and adaptation in order to make the creatures, but that's probably the reason they did the whole experiment, right? That's the most interesting thing it produces. And B, let's say, let's just give the hypothesis its due. Let's say that this was a environment created by some intentional being with the purpose of making critters using Darwinian evolution. Okay, so then, you've heard Elon say, well, if it's possible to simulate universes, then there are bound to be vastly more simulated universes than there are real universes. So we're probably in one. Now, I don't really buy that analysis, but let's say that it's true. Okay, so you get outside of your simulated universe to what he calls base reality. Okay, now what? Right? Was that one created too? By whom? Right? At some level, you're going to get far enough out that you have to invoke a natural process. And that natural process is going to involve something without a creator, right? There's no philosophical place. Even if we're inside something that was intentionally created, that something is inside something that wasn't. It has to be. You eventually get out to that layer. And at that point, if there was a creator, an intelligent designer of this cup, right? What designed that creator?
Right.
Darwinian selection, right? Let's suppose that's not true. Let's suppose that the creator of that cup is inside a simulator made by another creator. What made that creator? Darwinian evolution. Well, let's suppose that's not true. You go one layer out. Eventually, you're going to get to the place where you're going to have to surrender to the only thing anyone's ever come up with that could, in principle, create intelligent creatures. And it doesn't have a creator. It's a Darwinian process.
All right.
All
There
right.
you go, Tucker.
There's a lot more to say to Tucker. I would say the number of places, the genomes of the creatures that we have did not have to tell an elegant story of how they're related to each other, right? If a creator had designed them, he'd have no reason to make the phylogeny fit an evolutionary story that fit the paleobiology, right? So the number of confirmations that we have gotten is extraordinary, and they're just not familiar. But anyway, there's a lot of power in the theory, and don't fault the myopia of any generation of scientists. The overall story is elegant and fascinating.
All right. That's it. Bye, everybody.
Podcast, check in.
This episode is brought Joe Rogan Experience.
No vabbè, principalmente.
So,
Why would he be a left
your
back?
subject matter is so fascinating to me. So first, please explain what this idea of assembly theory.
Yeah. Assembly theory is born out of an interest in solving the origin of life and finding aliens. So that's sort of the motivation. I think it's really important to be clear about that to start because it introduces some kind of radical reconceptions of the way we think about fundamental physics. At least I think so. But the key idea of the theory is that the universe cannot generate complexity outside of living processes. And so we have a way of formalizing what seems kind of intuitively obvious that the universe doesn't generate complex objects for free. And we do this with this idea of assembly theory of thinking about the assembly space, which is like the space of all constructible objects. And you can talk about the complexity in that space as a minimal number of steps for making an object. And if you see objects that require a lot of steps to make them and they're in high abundance, life is the only thing that can make them.
Wow. So this includes plant life. This includes
Everything,
everything.
technology, everything on your table. Requires billions of years of evolution of intelligence, and technology to generate. So
when you say life to generate, what about like crystals? And what about, have you ever seen that enormous cave in Mexico where they have these insane crystal structures?
Is that the one that's like hot inside and like?
Yes.
Yes, I have seen that. It's gorgeous. I've never been there. But
Amazing.
Yeah,
But
totally.
it kind of looks like somebody made it, but it's just natural processes.
Yes. So I'm actually really interested in understanding to what degree we can consider minerals on our planet alive or artifacts of life. But we haven't formalized the theory entirely for minerals yet. So I think that one of the sort of key results we have so far is actually quantifying in molecules a complexity boundary above which if a molecule is so complex that we can say it's definitively life, and we've experimentally verified measuring this property of assembly of molecules to say these are derived from life, these are, and that there's a clear boundary. For minerals, we haven't done that yet because we're still formalizing the theory and the kind of measurements we need to take. But I expect there to be a boundary that planets can make some kinds of crystal complexity, but not all of it that we see on this planet.
So what's the conventional definition of life?
Yeah, so there's a lot of debate about what definitions of life should hold, but the one that is usually cited by astrobiologists is life is a self-sustaining chemical system capable of Darwinian evolution. And I've memorized it because I find it so annoying. So I'm like, I gotta know what I'm annoyed with.
What annoys you about it?
Everything. It's like, actually, it was very funny writing the book because I wanted to get into the new ideas, and my editor was like, you gotta explain how people think about life now. And I was like, okay, well, this definition is the most annoying one. I'll just pick it apart. And it's actually like all the words in it are annoying in some sense. So the first one is that life is chemical. I've never really thought about chemistry being the defining feature of life. I think you have to separate out that life emerges, at least as we understand it, from a chemical soup on a planet, right? So it emerges in chemistry, but it doesn't mean it's a chemical phenomenon. And the sort of analogy from the physicist's conception of nature I could draw there is we don't think that gravity is a phenomenon of rocks. Gravity represents some universal physics in our universe. And so when we're thinking about planets and things, we don't think that they obey the laws of gravity because they're made of rocks. We understand that there's some property called mass that's much more abstract and applies to everything. I think life's kind of the same. It emerges in chemistry, but there are some informational properties, these things about how life generates complex structures and how it does that so uniquely, is universal physics that happens to emerge in chemistry. So chemistry has to go out. It's not just a chemical phenomenon. And I think you need to recognize that if you're going to talk about like technology and artificial intelligence and like, are they alive or not? Because they're very different than, like what's happening inside a cell.
Right, non-biological.
Yeah.
But still seemingly alive.
Yes, maybe.
Maybe.
Perhaps.
Yeah, open to debate.
Open to debate.
I've said that about technology, that technology does seem to be a life form that requires us to give birth to it.
Yes.
Didn't Marshall McLuhan...
I like that way of thinking about it, yeah.
Yeah. Marshall McLuhan had a great quote, and I believe this was in the 1960s. He said that we are the sex organs of the machine world.
Oh.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. I don't disagree with that. Yeah.
Especially if it does become some sort of digital life, that's essentially what we are.
Yeah.
By proxy moms.
We are. So the way that I think about it is to think about life not in terms of individuals, but lineages. So, there's a lineage of how information has been structuring the material world, what we talk about in assembly theory, in terms of all of the configurations of objects created on our planet over 4 billion years. And that's a process that's continuous, with objects making other objects. And there's no reason that that should stop with biological forms of life, and it just moves into technology. So I like this idea that, or the reproductive organs, though, because I always think about like societies and like global integrated systems as being living things, and we're just like component parts of them.
Well, they certainly look like it when you look at traffic from overhead and you compare it to blood moving through arteries. It's really kind of extraordinary.
Yeah.
Because if you see the ebb and flow of the white lights and the red tail lights back and forth, and then you see blood cells moving through a person's body, it's kind of similar.
Yeah.
In a very weird way. And if you think that these cars are all carrying people that are assembling this society, both from the inside in terms of like paperwork and research and all the different things that people are doing, and then the outside in terms of constructing new buildings and putting glass structures and all these different things, like we really are like some sort of weird, we're like a form of like the city itself is like a living thing that we're making.
Yeah, and I think it's really important for us to recognize that. Actually, it's interesting that you use cars as your analogy, because Carl Sagan actually had like the same analogy. He would have liked that a lot. Thinking about aliens coming to life, would have thought cars were the dominant life form, which I think is a great, right? Because exactly like you're describing, it looks like the lifeblood of our planet. And I always think about cities at night as kind of the key signature of life on this planet. If you look at it remotely,
sure,
you can see all this structure on the planet. But it is hard for us because we're so like so much wanting to think about ourselves as individuals and like the apex of all of the evolutionary processes, not to think about ourselves as part of systems that are much larger than us. And I think it's critically important that we kind of change our reference frame on that, because we're also seeing right now with like social networks and the influence of like having all these societal level dialogues like brought to every individual, and like we don't know how to process that information.
Yes.
But we are part of these collective systems that are much larger than us, and they are constructing a lot of the world around us, without individuals having, as much agency in that process as we think we do. Yet that process is also what gives us our agency. So it's kind of paradoxical.
Right. I've often said that if an alien race that was completely outside of our understanding of life and our understanding of biology, if they observed us, they'd say, well, what is this dominant species doing? Well, it makes better things. That's all it does.
Yes.
We do a lot of things, but ultimately those things, even war, which is essentially about acquiring money and resources, we use those resources and that money to make better things. And in engaging in war, you're constantly advancing technology to have an advantage over the enemy. So you're making better things.
Yes.
Like everything is making better things, which when you scale it up, ultimately will lead to another life form. It will lead to some new things. Well, if we don't kill ourselves, or if we don't get super volcano, asteroid.
Yeah, I'm not a pessimist. I think we'll be around for a while.
You think so?
Yeah, but I have a pathology that I'm like really optimistic as a person, so I have a hard time.
That's good. That's not a pathology. Well, I think that's a pathology.
I think being overly optimistic can leave blind spots, but part of the reason that I imbue so much optimism in my work is like I think we need more optimistic narratives about the future, because so many people are really bleak.
I agree. I don't think that helps anybody, and I think ultimately most of the things that you're really terrified about do not come to pass.
Yes, I think us being terrified of them is like an immune response. So usually I'm not afraid of the things that people are really scared of and talking about, because it means society's dealing with it.
Right.
Which maybe that's just sort of a scapegoat. I don't have to worry about those things because someone else is. But I think actually there's something rather deep there, that like the things that we're trying to work through at this moment in history are being worked through.
My fear about those kind of thoughts is when I worry about things and I say, well, I don't have to worry because society's working through it. I also say, yeah, but someone's probably not, and they're enhancing the actual threat so they could profit off of it. That's the military industrial complex. That's a lot of different things. I think that